Welcome to today's episode. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Jaclyn. My name is Sam. And today on the Freak Show podcast, we're going to be talking about the power to change. And the title of the podcast is the same as the title of a book that I've recently been reading or listening to. Um, it's by Craig Groeschel. He is a pastor out of Texas, I believe, but kind of become a mega church pastor, I guess, if you will. Um, Not that that's a bad thing. I think it gets a bad rap in some ways, but I've really enjoyed this book, and it's kind of hit home with me. But I think that the reason that I wanted to talk about it today is because it has resonated with me so much. But I think so often we get stuck in the definition of who we think we are,
Mm.
and we allow that definition to dictate how we operate,
Mm-hmm.
how effective we are, and just limit ourselves
Yeah.
in so many ways. And so this book, if you haven't heard of it, The Power to Change, it's really good. I'd recommend you picking it up. So a lot of credit to Craig Groeschel on this one, but I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think me personally, I've had experiences where I've wanted to change certain habits or go towards different goals, but that voice in the back of my head was telling me you're not the person that does that kind of thing.
Mm.
And ultimately, the first quote from the book that I wanted to share that resonated with me was, "You do what you do because of what you think of you." So the
Ooh.
the concept is that if we want to change a habit, if we want to change the actions and the trajectory of our life or work toward a goal, we have to work on ourselves first. And
Mhm.
from a frequency standpoint, that means that we have to be aligned with that goal. But even more than that, I think something that is the most important uh, alignment that we need is alignment with God. So if I have a goal and an objective, and I say I want to tune into that frequency to become that or
Mm.
to achieve that,
Like
that
faith
is
is the ultimate tuner.
right. So if you think of it, if I'm trying to do that myself, that's me trying to tune in through my power, through my strength
Mm.
to that frequency.
Mm-hmm.
But if I first align with God and I'm on the same page with God, then I am now pursuing this calling or this objective or this goal through God's power.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's an interesting perspective too, because I would have said the most important thing before trying to change or trying to achieve a goal is that you believe that it's possible.
Yeah,
That you believe that that change is possible, that you believe you're worthy of that thing, that you believe you're worthy of changing, that you believe that you have the ability to change, because there are so many people that I've come across and so many people in our lives that are like, I'm X amount of years old, this is just who I am.
right.
And that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You absolutely can. We are pliable and we can choose to do things differently every single day. But I like that analogy of God and faith in God being like the ultimate tuning fork,
Mm-hmm.
because I think you're right. I think when we surrender, and the Surrender Experiment is such a great book by Michael Singer, but when we surrender, we attune better with who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
And when we figure out who we really are and we hand that over to God, I think God implants these amazing ideas and goals and desires. And so then when we partner with God, there's a whole different trajectory or potential trajectory for what we're going after.
And I'll take it one step further. It's not just figuring out who we are, but figuring out who we are in God, who we can be through God as the foundation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because we're down here on this planet in these meat suits trying to hammer and chisel away every day through our own strength. But if we are in alignment with God
Yeah.
and God's vision and God's purpose and God's timing, then we are utilizing the strength of God
Yeah. Yeah.
for that purpose
Yeah.
versus on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main takeaway
Yeah.
from the book. That's the overarching theme.
Okay.
Now it goes into like technical, tactical aspects of how do you change your habits? How do you do
Okay.
those certain
That's good.
things?
Yeah. Because I think the fear that I haven't read the book yet, but obviously I'm part of the podcast and wanted to be part of the episode. My fear is that people then they're like, oh, well, the responsibility isn't mine. I'm just going to give this to God. I'm going to
No.
surrender it to God. But just like the frequency of belief, which we talk about so much, it's yes, God is a part of it for sure. But if we don't take action, God's not going to do it for us.
Absolutely not. But I think my perspective is that we absolutely have to take action. The most important action is understanding who we are through God, because that objective that we want
Mm-hmm.
we will be led there on a path that we will grow. That path, the path to the objective is not the thing. The path to how we get there is the thing. We've talked about that, many times, that it's who you become in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the point. So it's not the most important action is alignment with God through the entire process, because that means that you are learning, you are understanding, and God is showing you.
Okay, then I want
Versus,
to ask, what does alignment with God look like to you from a tactical perspective?
you already said it, surrendering.
Okay. But what does that look like in every day? For somebody who's not familiar with that, somebody who hasn't, I'm thinking of listeners listening in, somebody who hasn't maybe gone through some of the trials that we've experienced where we've had $200 left in our bank account and a child and mortgages and all kinds of stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like from a tactical perspective on a daily basis?
Well, that's where your action comes in. That's where you can't sit back and pray and ask for these things and expect it to happen.
Mm.
But whatever you focus on is ultimately what you worship.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm focused on that end thing, that's what I worship.
Yeah. I want to know, like, example wise in your life, though. Like, how does that translate into your daily to-dos? Do you know what I'm saying? So that we can make this super chewable for people to listen to.
How do you build any relationship with anyone?
You spend time with them.
Exactly. You spend time with them. You make time for them. You make them a priority. You pray. You read the word.
Mm-hmm.
You start removing things from your life that take you away from that. You start adding things in that are in alignment with that journey. The music you listen to, the podcast you listen to, the books you read, those sorts of things that are all in alignment. Mm. And I think, it can be a touchy subject to talk to speak to in a public forum, because we have in many ways been taught to put our faith to the side.
Yeah.
But that's religion's fault. That's not faith's fault.
Correct.
Faith is pure.
Mm-hmm.
And so to answer your question, it's exactly what you said. It's making it a priority, mm-hmm. spending time and seeking it, whatever that is. Okay. Whatever that is for you.
But I think there's more to it. I think there's action as well. And yes, that is an action, and making time for God is an action. But, when we're talking about giant goals like making $8.6 million or something, that's not just going to happen through spending time with God and going to church. Maybe those things will amplify and we'll have opportunities through those. But what are those daily actions that you're combining with faith?
Well, for me personally, I have my visions, my vision and my objective and our objectives as far as this is the business,
Mm-hmm.
or these are the different aspects of the business. So that doesn't change aside from what I would say would be in communication with God, saying, is this the right path?
Mm-hmm.
Like asking for guidance. Is this the right path? Is this the right time? If so, show me the way, show me the path, show me the steps to
So
take. So I know that you want um, I know that you want more, I don't know how to say it, uh,
concrete tactical steps.
right.
Well, and what I'm trying to do is take this very existential idea that you're talking about, that in talking about it is very generalized, and
Hmm.
make it something that people can put into a plan,
Yeah.
so that after listening to this episode, it's something that's executable.
Okay.
But what I'm hearing you say, and I think this often happens in our relationship, is you'll say something and I'll kind of distill it, right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying here is you are injecting faith into an already very solid business plan or life plan. And then along the way saying, hey, God, is this the right time for this? Is this the right dream? Is this the right goal?
I think that's the way it's happened.
Yeah.
That's, if I could rewind the clock, that's not the progression I would have taken.
Okay.
Right.
So
So
what's the progression you would have taken then?
I would have started with God and said, God, is this for me? Is this the timing?
Yeah.
Is this your timing? And proceeded from there.
Yeah.
But because I wasn't there
Yeah.
spiritually at the time, we've pursued these things without making our faith be the basis of it, foundation of it. So now that we've
Speak for
gone,
yourself.
well, I shouldn't say that completely. I
Yeah.
don't mean that completely. Like it's not that it hasn't been a big part of it. It certainly has. So let me retract what I said. It's certainly been a big part of it, but I don't think that I've made it the foundation of it from the
Gotcha.
beginning.
Yeah.
So I guess there are the way that if I'm like picturing a graph in my mind, and we've gone towards these goals, we've achieved goals, we've had faith as an aspect, but what I feel is the most powerful way, the most meaningful way, is to have faith as the foundation of that. So now I am making faith the foundation of everything I do, and understanding who I am through God in that process. These are still my goals. These are still our objectives.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't just want the thing because it's going to bring me a lot of money. It's going to bring me financial security and freedom and cars and houses and those sorts of things.
Sure.
My objective is not the thing. My objective is who I am becoming through God in that path to that thing.
Wow. I feel like this is a good conversation for us to have because I didn't know that.
Well, that's why we're here.
Today's episode of The Freak Show is supported by Ancestral Supplements. With Ancestral Supplements, you can now add back the dense nutrition the human body craves to optimally support a vibrant life and experience improvements in energy, immunity, strength, gut and digestion, endurance, memory, vitality, sleep, and much, much more. One of the most dense sources of nutrition on the planet, their beef liver supplements aid the liver in optimizing the body's metabolic functions, helps to detoxify the body, and is integral to supporting a healthy immune system. If you don't know where to start with Ancestral Supplements, because they do have a large library of supplements, I would say start with the liver. I would also say they have a free consultation that you can take advantage of, and I would highly recommend that you do. I have emailed with them multiple times, and they have helped me tailor a supplement plan specific for my needs and health goals. Ancestral Supplements' ultra high quality liver formula is loaded with vitamins, minerals, proteins, and healthy fats that support collagen synthesis, think skin, hair, and connective tissues, immune health, and heart, brain, and liver health. Our early ancestors knew this, which is why their traditional diets included the frequent and nourishing consumption of this nutritional powerhouse. Just the liver supplement provides powerful energy, vibrant skin, fertility and fetal development, strong bones, brain power, robust immunity, strength and endurance, eye and vision health, methylation and detoxification. It's amazing, right? So amazing. Ancestral Supplements has generously offered our Freak community 10% off of your first purchase with code BECKON10. Again, that's code BECKON10, BECKON 10 at ancestralsupplements.com for 10% off your first purchase. I know you are going to love this supplement company as much as Sam and I do. I have my mom on the supplements. I occasionally open the capsules and sneak some of the nutrition into my son's food. It is just next level supplementation. All right. Thank you. Enjoy. And now back to the show.
Okay, where do we go next?
Well, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty big concept, and I don't. If it resonates, I would just encourage you to. I'll share what I've been doing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I get up early when it's quiet. I just enjoy the silence. We have a 3-year-old and one on the way, so that silence
get it in while
is
you can.
priceless. But I use that time to spend time with God, whether I'm on the treadmill, working out, in between those times, whatever it is, I make sure that my number one priority is connecting with God. And I know that you talked about having concrete steps. It's not really a concrete thing because you're building a relationship. So as long as you're making that time, as long as you're making that effort, that relationship is going to grow, and you're going to start seeing things fall into place that are going to continue to lead you on that path.
And that's the key to the power of change, essentially, as laid out in this book and as you're experiencing.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. The power of change, meaning we're always going to come back to what we think about ourselves. So if I pursue that thing and I get that thing, it doesn't mean that I'm any different
Changed.
in the process. So I'm still going to be that person that I was when I started.
Yeah.
If I haven't changed who I am, and my belief is changing who I am through my understanding my relationship to God and understanding who I am through God.
Yeah.
And God's strength and God's power.
And I'll add to that and say, I think God's perspective of us is very different than our perspective of ourselves. You know, I think of God as, in this situation, as a father, and how much a good father loves their child and how much potential they see in them, and how much just unconditional love there is. And I think that if we can start to view ourselves from that perspective, and I know we're not perfect, no one is perfect, but if we can start to view ourselves from that sense of purity, maybe, like God created us and God created us for a purpose and we are loved unconditionally, that changes, hopefully, or gives us the opportunity to change how we view ourselves.
Absolutely. You know, that's the net that is there for you the entire time. And that's what enables you to walk out on faith, I think, is that knowing that if you are in relationship with God, that he holds you in his hand.
Yeah.
One other quote that I'll say in a minute that really resonated with me is, I'm not somebody that I feel like I've had a calling.
Yeah.
other than to have a family, have children, from a professional standpoint, I've never been someone that was like, I got to be a fireman. I got to be a, I got to be a politician, whatever it is. That's my calling.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt that I had a clear vision of what that is. And so this really spoke to me. And it goes back to what we've been talking about. But he says, your calling is more about who you are becoming than what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave me peace in because it's not finding the right thing. The purpose isn't finding the right thing. You can find things that you're good at. You can find things that you enjoy, certainly. But the calling is more about who you are becoming than what you are doing. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm sure that there's somebody out there that has that same
I think a lot
feeling.
of people will be able to relate to that. I can't relate to that. I'll be honest. But I think that's also why you and I are in relationship. I think one of the reasons you were attracted to me was because I was very clear on what I wanted to do. And that
Mhm.
has shifted over the years,
Mhm.
but I feel very clear on what I want to do now and where I want to go. Um, and I know a lot of people can relate to me on that too. But there are a lot of people who don't necessarily have that super clear understanding of what their calling is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I did see that. That candle just went out, so I don't know if we're going to have smoke on the screen. But I did see that in you, and that was attractive to me, um, because you had a clear vision of where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do. And you were the yin to my yang from that perspective. So, absolutely. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I felt like that really resonated with me because it let I kind of had a sigh of relief because it's like, man, you don't have to find the perfect thing to be your calling. You may have
Multiple
100
callings.
callings along the way,
Mm-hmm.
as long as your focus is who are you becoming and what is your foundation built on.
Mm-hmm. A couple years ago, I did a little video on this, but I remember saying, let's not measure our success by how much we do, like how productive we are. It was at the end of a year where I had just had a baby. I was postpartum. We were starting a business and we had made a lot of progress, but it wasn't as much progress as I wanted to make. And I was like, I have to stop measuring my success by dollar signs, by productivity, by trying to prove my worth, and start asking myself, am I proud of who I've become over the last year?
Mm-hmm.
Am I proud of how I've reacted to different circumstances? Am I proud of what I've learned and what I've read and how I've educated myself?
Mm-hmm.
Am I proud of the thoughts that I have transformed from limiting thoughts to limitless thoughts?
Certainly.
And I think measuring success like that, or measuring the trajectory of your life, yes, I want to be financially successful. Yes, I want to build a business that's a legacy. What I want most, though, is to have a tight knit family and to have a sense of unconditional love between all of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my biggest thing. I want all the other things, but I feel like if we measure success by how much we're growing each year, it's easier to see how incredibly far we've come.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the whole purpose of this thing,
Yeah. To
of this,
become
of
better and better
life.
versions of ourselves,
Right.
to be closer and closer to that model of Jesus, right?
Right.
Yeah. Um, I think also, oh, it's so distracting when you
I'm
keep
sorry.
doing
I'm
that.
trying to.
My gosh, you're driving me crazy. It looks like he's texting on his phone. His phone just keeps locking, so he keeps putting in his password over and over and over again, and it's so distracting. But going back to the subject of the power to change, I had a podcast. It's on this thread. If you go back to the beginning, I started it in 2020. It was originally called Self Discovery. Then it became Self Worth. And it was all this path of like finding alignment in who I am and allowing self worth and my sense of self. Um, I keep saying self, not in a selfish way, but in an innate, I am worthy of speaking out. I am worthy of my dreams. I am worthy of earning money and not settling for a pittance. It totally changed my life in every way. And so, yes, the power to change, I think what you're saying, the bedrock is going, hey, God, show me who I am.
Right.
Show me what you want for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then teach me how to become that person. And then the other part of that too is trusting the process and trusting yourself. And what I mean by that is God can show up for us 100% of the time, but if we're still doubtful every time, we're not going to go as far or be able to do as much as if we were saying, yes, I am worthy. I'm going to trust and I'm going to take action. And from that place of action, I'm going to believe that it's going to occur.
Well, I think that's where, I don't know if paradigm is the right word, but that's the paradigm is I am worthy because God says that I'm worthy. I am worthy because I am saved. I am anew.
I feel like you were just preaching on here. I was not prepared for this.
Well, here it goes. But that is the paradigm is I am all of these things because God strengthens me, God powers me, God clears the way, or God challenges me, or God puts something in front of me that I have to overcome to become to become who I am.
Yeah.
But I am worthy of those things through God. It relieves you of yourself.
Yeah, which is a huge relief. And I think it's a lot more comfortable for people to use the word the universe or source or whatever new age term. We use God, we use Jesus because we're very comfortable with that. And I think we've all been wounded by religion, but we've also grown out of a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the saying, life happens for us, not to us, is also very applicable here.
Certainly.
What we believe about our circumstances dictates a lot of how we're going to react to them and then the reality that we're going to create after that.
Look.
And so I think saying God allows these things to happen for us so that we can learn, so we can grow, so we can push past our growth edges.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening to us. It's happening for us.
Yeah. And we have free will. So we're going to choose. We have the ability to choose whatever we want.
Yeah. Yeah.
It comes down to that. Like you have that power yourself. Mm-hmm. So whatever you choose will be. So I think I just think that we are so much stronger, so much more capable. I know that we are so much stronger, so much more capable if we are in alignment with God and what we are doing and what our desires are, than if we are strictly operating from this is what I want through my own strength.
Yeah. And discipline is definitely part of it. Discipline is important. But to bring this full circle, what you're saying is the power to change is rooted in the spiritual. It's not rooted in the tactical.
It's a marriage.
Discipline.
It's a marriage of both of them, but it has to start with the spiritual.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully that was very helpful. What is the question you want to leave everybody with?
I would just ask, would you and can you set aside time to make space for God and to connect with God in your life?
Okay.
And things will start changing.
Yeah. I mean, we've experienced that over and over. All right. Live on purpose, live on frequency. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to The Freak Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jaclyn Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beck and Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high-frequency living.